Hi, I'm Emma, LCA Specialist at Ecochain, and I'm going to show you how to use properties in Mobius. And right now you might be thinking, what are properties and why do I need them? Well, please keep watching because properties are a vital part of your model and you have to always check them to make sure that what you're doing is correct and you're getting the right impact. I'm going to use this t-shirt as an example. What you see here is a product inventory that we modeled before. First, to explain what properties are, I think you might have already seen some time ago that units in Mobius are quite flexible. So if I, for example, have this electricity item and I want to change the unit that I'm measuring it in, I can just press this pencil, then I can just edit the unit and I can just type something random, press enter, and it works. That's interesting because how does Mobius know what that means? Well, actually, Mobius doesn't. So the units in Mobius are not smart, and that can sometimes be an advantage because you get to, for example, model your product any way you want. You can model beer per tray, or you can model 6 apples if you want, and that can be your unit. But also when you're actually trying to quantify your impact, it can be a disadvantage because somehow the software of course needs to know how much you're measuring so that it can also assign the right amount of impact. Well, how do we do that then? That is what the properties are for. So we can find the properties in the bottom right here in the detail panel, and each item has its own property. So what the property does is that it essentially translates the amount in the dataset to the amount that you've modeled in your product inventory. And how that works is that it is kind of like the bridge between both units. So let's take the electricity as an example. We've defined the unit of electricity to be kilowatt hours, so we're also putting in the amount of kilowatt hours that we're using. Next, we need to check out what the unit of the data set is that we selected. So we click on it, and here we see that our data set is per 1 kilowatt hour of energy. So this data set provides a certain amount of impact per 1 kilowatt hour. That's actually the same unit, which means that our property should be 1 kilowatt hour as well, because we have 1 kilowatt hour and 1 kilowatt hour, and we don't need to translate them, so the property is just 1 kilowatt hour. And what is important to note here is that the property is per 1 of your defined unit. So here it says 0.6, but that doesn't matter because the property is for this item, and if we see this item alone, it's going to be 1 kilowatt hour and our property is just 1 kilowatt hour. You can ignore your amounts in the inventory and you can just take one of your defined units to find your property. For another example, here we have waste fabric. We have modeled it per kilogram. And here we have this data set and it also is measured per kilogram. So our units are again the same and our property should be 1 kilogram. So let's check it. It's also 1 kilogram. So this works fine. These were both very easy cases because actually all of the units were the same. So the property was also the same. But sometimes you might model something, you might put it in your product inventory, and the dataset unit might be different. So now I'm going to show you how you can make conversions with properties. Let's say we are using a different fabric now, so I'm going to remove this one from the model. We're going to add another one, and this is a purchase fabric. I have used a data set from the database to model it. We're using still the same amount of fabric, 1.8 square meters, and we're just measuring that like we always did, just the amount of square meters. And now we're checking out this data set and we see that actually it's measuring cotton, the fabric, per 1 kilogram. That poses a problem because we have square meters in our model, so we need to somehow translate this data set, that is 1 kilogram, to the amount of kilograms that represent 1 square meter. To do that, we can use the property. So what we need to put in here is the amount of kilograms of the data set that you need to make 1 square meter of cotton. So it also says so here. And let's say that we know that our cotton weighs 0.8 kilogram per square meter. Then we can adapt the property and put 0.8 here. This is how you can use the property to convert from one unit to another. What is actually quite important to note is that this impact would have been way higher if we would have left the property for what it was. Because now it's correct, it is the right amount of impact because we're taking the right amount of weight. But if we would have left it on 1 kilograms, then our impact would have been a lot higher. So this shows the importance of always checking your properties and making the right conversions if necessary. In this video, I've shown you how properties in Mobius work and how you should check them and how you can also use them to convert dataset units to the unit that you're using. I think this is a really difficult topic. So if you don't get it now, don't worry. We have more resources. You can look them up. And you can always get in touch with us. So we have a chat, and we also have talk to an expert meetings, for example. Please let us know if you're getting stuck. And I wish you the best of luck with making your own LCAs in Mobius.